kind of dive deep into issues and context for deeper learning, and also to connect with other colleagues from around the world. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Larry Rosenstock, the founding CEO of High Tech High, for a welcome. Larry.
This is a lot of fun to have all you people here. This is great. I just love it. Debbie Meyer once said, of Central Park East, once said, bad conferences are like bad schools, there's no recess. So I look forward to a lot of the recess conversations that we're all going to have. I have just 5 minutes to tell you a couple of things about this place. We began in 2000, and Rob and I, a lot of people know that Rob and I were in the oldest high school in the United States, back east. He was on the 5th floor teaching writing. I was on the ground floor teaching carpentry. And we both had occasion to be at the local university there, working on something else. We'd never met in 7 years, and the 2,400 kids and 201 teachers. We'd never met. We were that separated. We kind of recognized each other and said, "Oh, you look kind of familiar." And we felt...
I never recognized him.
Yeah, yeah, it's that guy over there. And anyway, so what happened was we felt that maybe it was a little bit too stuffy, and we really wanted to get back in to the grittiness of working in high schools, which we've spent our careers doing. And we did go back in, and we had a little tiny room that we were given that was like a closet called the Center for Integrated Studies, where I think that we brought together this notion of humanitas, student voice and choice, writing, of course, and creating something that wasn't there before that's also physical, and carpentry. And that grew to David Stephen, who I see here, and we then created something called CityWorks, which was making the city where the kids live to be the text, because every kid had something to bring to that discussion. And that's why I think making the city be the text was such a good idea. And brought a lot of different teachers who'd never done that before, and had an exhibition where one teacher said, "I've been teaching here for 25 years, I've never seen so many parents come in one night." And then we left there to work on the New Urban High School project with Debbie Meyer, Ted Sizer, Howard Fuller, Judith Warren Little from Berkeley, and that was an effort to find and describe and design models for New Urban High Schools in the United States, in which we said that we never found it. This place isn't it either. That it's a mosaic where you take this piece from there and that piece from there and this piece from there. This place is definitely still a work in progress. The world does not need more high-tech highs. What the world needs is more differentiated schools, and we're all trying to contribute to that basic narrative. So with that, I welcome you all here for these few days, and it's just really an absolute pleasure to meet you all, and an honor to have such great talent among us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. He wants to say one more thing.
I have to say one thing I forgot to say, okay? I think what the pedagogy that we're about is really, really important, and I think that's largely the purpose of this convocation. And what's paramount and above it is equity and social class integration. I taught at the height of DSEG in the Boston schools. I saw people throwing bricks at babies in buses. And when I was teaching carpentry, I'd gone to law school for some reason before that. The kids were the carpentry kids who were juvie special ed kids. I said, how come these kids are every bit as bright as the middle class kids I was just in law school with? How come these kids are over here and those kids are over there? That's why, because housing segregation is the cause of school segregation. The way we bring kids in here is purely by zip code and knowing nothing else about them, okay? So my fear for us all in terms of deeper learning, my hope is that it's an equity agenda. My fear is that the introduction of measurement, as I've seen in the past, gets in the way. So we've got college completion data, which is our proof point, but that's not enough. I think all of us are in search of ways to demonstrate to the world that this thing really actually works. And as Einstein once said, not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. Okay, now I'm...
All right. Thank you, Larry. And now it's a pleasure to introduce Larry Kramer, who's the president of Hewlett Foundation, which is behind all of this and behind your being here. Larry.
know good communication skills, which of course is part of what this is all about. You're not supposed to use them, but I do. So I just wanted to take a couple minutes to welcome you all. I will say this is a much bigger crowd than I anticipated, so I'm almost intimidated. I know the audience includes a lot of members of the Hewlett Foundation's Deeper Learning Network schools, but also a lot of you who are from outside that network, and we're really delighted to see all of you and actually to see so many of you. I want to start by saying thank you to just a couple thank yous. First to the members of the network who collaborated to bring this conference about. It's great for us, we get to provide the resources, but other people do most of the work. And especially to the staff of High Tech High who did this. They've done tremendous work now, I guess 2 years in a row, to make the conference happen. I also want to take a minute to thank our funding partner here, the Rakes Foundation, who've been great and steady partners all along in the effort to expand deeper learning. They have, among other things, co-funded the recently concluded Deeper Learning MOOC. I don't know how many of you did, a lot of you, that's great. As well as Deeper Learning 2014, this conference. Unfortunately, Jeff Rakes was unable to make it, but I do want to recognize Katie Hong. Are you out there somewhere? Somewhere out there. She's out there somewhere. Trust me, Katie Hong, who is the officer who handles this for the Rakes Foundation. So you might not know this, I've been a teacher my whole life, at least until I joined the Hewlett Foundation in 2012. If anybody bothered to look up what I did, it's true. I taught graduate students at law schools, which is not the same thing. I don't want to compare teaching law students to K-12, either in terms of the difficulty or importance of the work, although there are more similarities between law students and elementary school students than you might imagine. But particularly what is similar is recognition that the task of teaching is a lot more than just conveying information to students. That you need to teach them the set of skills: critical thinking, problem solving, how to collaborate, communication, learning to learn. And believe it or not, that suite of capacities is precisely the list I used to use when I was the dean of a law school before moving to Hewlett. Was precisely the list of qualities that I would use to explain our mission at the law school and why legal education needed to change. Because it was exactly the capacities and competencies that lawyers need for the many different roles that they are now called upon to play, particularly in a changing profession and a changing economic environment. It was traditionally the case in legal education that if you just taught people how to read and analyze cases, that was all they needed to do as a lawyer, because their job was basically just to tell clients what they couldn't do. And that has changed as everything else has changed. And so, the ability to understand problems and work with clients to solve them is what lawyers need to do, whether they are practicing law or doing the many other things that they do. And so that became our educational mission and approach. And of course, you can't teach people those skills by talking to them from the front of a classroom. Or even, I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember the paper chase, but for those of you who do, the sort of, we get a handful of hands out. It's so depressing as I get older to have my cultural references fade. The Kingsfield-like, Socratic method is, you still can't teach people, what you need to in that way. I used to give a talk at the beginning of school where I'd say to students, I could tell you how to play the guitar, and you wouldn't know how to play the guitar. The only way you're going to learn how to play the guitar is if we put a guitar in your hand and force you to pluck out really bad versions of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star for a while you slowly get better. Now, I will say, I used to give that speech, and I had never tried to play guitar, and I recently started to learn how to play guitar. And boy, is that true. I actually have not yet gotten to the level of even Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. But it's clear that, it's difficult to learn, and that's how you learn, which is, in some sense, by being forced to do it in context and learn from it. And so that's what we did at the law school, was really what would fit as classic deeper learning exercises, creating opportunities for students to learn by doing and learn in context, whether that was simulation courses or real client clinics, or my favorite, we had you have students who are they're gonna grow up and become corporate lawyers. They're gonna do deals for people. So we would take business students and law students, we would put them in teams, we would put them, say, here's a team, 1 team, 2 team, you guys have to negotiate a deal, negotiate it, execute the papers, do all the work, and then we would bring in the people who actually created the actual deal on which it was based and reverse engineer it with them. And it was just a fantastic way, not for them just to learn how to do it, but to really become, learn to understand each other and how they thought. So it was also a part of acculturating law students to the way business people think and acculturating business people to the way law students think. And we did that across disciplines in all the different kinds of things that lawyers do. And it really has been an important change in legal education. Now, what's true for law, of course, is even more true for primary and secondary education. That is, the deeper learning skills are what all students need to succeed in the economy and the social world into which they're going. So most, as we know, I always found this really interesting, most of the jobs, many of the jobs, maybe most of the jobs that today's students are going to go into may not even exist yet, right? And so figuring out what is it that we can provide them educationally that will prepare them for that kind of world, that will make them intellectually nimble enough to succeed, especially as the jobs of the futures are not likely to be, like the jobs of the past, in the sense that they're going to require a lot more cognitive and intellectual skills and adaptation and so on. And so that is the set of skills that deeper learning reflects. It's also, though, I want to say equally important for a separate interest, certainly that we have at the Hewlett Foundation, which is democratic citizenship. We're living in an age when democratic government is challenged on a whole lot of fronts. And it becomes more and more important for citizens to be able to read and understand and think about society's problems, not just reflect back what they hear from leadership, and to be able to think through, talk with each other, and understand so that they can operate properly as citizens in a democratic society. So, those, among other reasons, are why the Hewlett Foundation has made, and this precedes me certainly by quite a while, a strong commitment to the deeper learning concepts. We see it as necessary for citizenship, as necessary for economic success, and as Larry mentioned, also a powerful equity agenda, one of the ways in which we can put all students in a position where they can compete on equal ground by equipping them with the set of skills that they are all going to need going forward. Last point. I think, as is obvious, deeper learning depends above all on teachers and on great teaching, as does all education, ultimately. And that's like why you're all here. I wrote why we're all here, but the truth is it's why you guys are here, because I don't get to do that as much anymore. But you're here, to share stories, to learn from each other, to share ideas and lessons, and deepen your own commitments to this way of learning, hopefully in the same way that we want students to. So deeper learning is an approach to teaching. It's a way to think about education. And like everything, obviously it can be made easier if you have more resources, better facilities. These are amazing facilities. All of that obviously makes all of that better, but as we know, it's difficult to get those kinds of resources to everybody. It doesn't follow that the deeper learning approach to education can't be done and can't be done incredibly well. Creative teachers will always find a way, and I want to finish with a sort of personal story. I have a daughter. She is now 13. She's going to go to School of the Arts next year. One of the reasons we liked it is they use the arts to teach exactly the kinds of problem-solving skills that we think are so important. When she started out, she hated school, and she was flailing. And in 5th grade, she had a teacher who really changed her life. And it was a particular project, which was they were going to do a study of the gold rush in California. And what the teacher did was he created a simulation whole cloth using just his own ideas and some of his fellow teachers who helped him out and the students themselves. And they created a simulation in which everybody was assigned a role. You were either a miner or a storekeeper or a new person who had come from the East. They had the kids do the research on their own about all the things that they would need in order to play their role in the simulation. There was a little creek that ran behind the school, and they bought, the little baked gold rock candy. Remember that stuff when you were a kid? And they filled all the river with it, and then they had the kids do actual, mining, and then they had trade, and the stores would sell goods with what they got from the gold, and it was about a 3-day experience, and so it was all wrapped into this live experience that took me 3 days, and it changed my daughter's life. It really did. It made her, for the first time, love school. As I said, she's 13 now. She still talks about that experience. It was the basis for her high school essay that she had to write about, why she liked education. And it drives. Then, by the way, I am so forever grateful to that teacher. It drives home, the most important thing, which is the wonderful power, privilege, and opportunity that you all get by being able to teach kids and to change their lives that way. It's a really great thing. So have a wonderful time at this conference, enjoy it, have fun, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much, Larry. And of course, if 3 days in an experience can change someone's life, think what would a place look like and what would be the effect of a place where deeper learning was going on every day of the year. So, a theme for us to pursue. Thank you, Larry. So a couple of key pieces of information. One is that the restrooms are through the exit door and immediately to the left. And then secondly, I do want to recognize a couple of people who've been really behind the planning of all of this. Is Laura McBain here? Laura in the back, Stacy Callier, and Haley Marugasan, who's done all the logistics and so forth. Well, you'll get a chance to see them anyway, but just want to recognize them publicly, and Ben Daly also, who's been done a lot of There's a lot in your program about deeper learning. I just want to run through quickly a couple of things. One is we'll try to be mindful as we go through this conference about the elements of deeper learning. It has to do with getting to core academic content, but in that process, thinking critically, solving complex problems, working collaboratively, communicating, learning to learn, developing academic mindsets, and also becoming self-directed learners. That's what we're about here in this conference. And in particular, our hope for this conference, our hope, is that you will come out of here thinking that you have explored well the intersection between deeper learning and the maker movement, that you will have come away with some inspiration about creative design on a shoestring, that we've explored mindsets, the why, what, and how of mindsets, and that you have participated in and done a lot of thinking about co-design and co-construction. The bywords for this are connect with colleagues from around the world, innovate and gather ideas for innovation, and hopefully experience deeper learning yourself in this conference. And by that we also mean we hope that you will feel at the end of this that you belong in this learning community, that you can grow as a learner and participant, and have done so in this few days that we're together, that you can do this work, and that in fact this is important work. As far as materials go for the conference, so you're in a deep dive and you think, wow, there's 15 other deep dives or 25 other deep dives, I'm missing so much. All of the materials for all of the sessions are available. If you simply Google DL Learning, Deeper Learning 2014, the first item is going to be the site where you can find some materials, the Deeper Learning site. And you can click, for example, on Deep Dives, and you'll get all the stuff, all the materials from all of the various deep dives, the same for all the workshops and everything. So remember, Deeper Learning 2014, just Google it and all the materials will be there. So now we'll go back to, one more? Yeah, okay. Then, a couple of points about the agenda. The agenda is in your program, so I'm not going to go over it, but a couple of things. One is that there's a point at which it's going to be a little tricky in this agenda. That is at 4 o'clock, when we have exhibitions going on from the deep dives. So at 4 o'clock, all of the deep dive presenters at High Tech High, at the High Tech High building, will be presenting. And all of the presenters from High Tech Middle will be attending those presentations, so they're not going to be standing by their work. Then at 4:30, all of the presenters, all the deep dives from High Tech Middle will be exhibiting their work. So the idea is, go to High Tech High from 4 to 4:30, dip into those exhibitions there from the deep dives, and then at 4:30, we'll try to be kind of like a swarm of locusts. That's not a good analogy, is it? But anyway, we'll try to all move over to them. That's the tricky part of it. What we'll see if we can do. I know that this group is up to the challenge. During the time that the exhibitions are going on, we've got a project here called Real Delicious, where students decided they wanted to do a field truck. They They did, there we go. There we go, real delicious. Thank you, Maya. Okay. So to do it, they realized they needed to raise about $30,000. They put together a Kickstarter campaign, raised the money. They have the food truck. It's standing out there, and the kids from the food truck project will be circulating with hors d'oeuvres and appetizers and so forth during the exhibition for you. So that's kind of a special moment. And then at 5 o'clock, and then at 6, 5 o'clock back here for reception, and then dinner, and then a special event at 8, from 8 to 9 at High Tech High in the Commons Room. The teaching channel, underwritten by Hewlett, has developed a set of videos of about 50 different kind of takes on deeper learning. And we'll see excerpts from those, and then a panel moderated by Mark Chun of Hewlett, right at the conclusion of that. That's from 8 to 9 tonight, not to be missed. Okay, so day 2, nothing much to say about that, except that it's going to be an exciting day. I don't want to go over, and a couple of things. Then at 5 o'clock, or 5:30 rather, our dinner and reception are going to be at the Stone Brewery, which is about 5 or 6 blocks down the road that way. That also not to be missed. Then on the 3rd day, we're going to be having, by the way, another thing not to be missed. Let me go back to day 2. This is very, very, very important. Running with Rob and Ron. I'm Rob, by the way. Running with Rob and Ron. Okay, if you're I didn't know that. I'm going to be first. Okay, running with Rob and Ron at 6 tomorrow, starting from the Courtyard Marriott over here. And then Friday morning, the same thing. So that's not to be missed. I think all of that's in your program. We're going to move on. So, but there are 2 program updates for today. The deep dive into the world of lobsters. The room has been changed for that. It will be in High Tech High 501. Okay, make a note of that if you're lined up for that deep dive. Then secondly, metacognitive. That session will be in High Tech Middle, room 6. Okay, everybody got that? All right, now we're going to move on to our Microlab keynote. I'm going to ask our panelists to come on up here. Let's see, I don't know, we might need another chair. Come on up. Describe a time when you experienced deeper learning as a learner in your K-12 years, in or out of school, or in your adult life. And we have 2 students who are going to share the keynote here. Maya Irvin from High and Noah Thoron from Big Picture Company. They're each going to get 2 minutes to talk about such an experience, and then we're going to go to person number 1 in your group. Okay? Maya, I'm starting my clock.
Okay. So hi, I'm Maya, and I go to High Tech High, I'm a 10th grader. Oh, sorry. And so last year, when I was in 9th grade, I got the chance to be part of an apocalyptic project, actually taught by Scott Swaley over here, who's a peer of yours. And so in humanities, I learned about the rise and fall of civilizations. So the Easter Islanders, the Mayans, the Greeks, the Romans. And then in physics, we actually learned about gears, so torque and rotation per minute, and how mechanisms sort of work. And then and then we had to come up with our own theory. So my theory had 5 steps. And then after that, we had to create a gear that matched it. And it was very difficult. And I always say that it's sort of my deeper learning experience because I was paired with 3 other boys. And so one of them, they were like, what do you need me to do? I'll do it. And the other 2 were just sort of like, eh. And so I sort of took on quite a few of the jobs. And so I had never done anything like working with Adobe Illustrator or trying to figure out the math because it was just a lot. And so it really made me work every bit of intelligence I had because I was trying to figure out a whole bunch of different things. And while I was working on creating this mechanism, I was also writing papers for my humanities teacher, so I just was doing a lot, and I was trying to sort of work through it and work with my group as well because I didn't just want to leave them, behind. I wanted them to be able to understand it too. And actually on exhibition day, my mechanism didn't work, and so that sort of pushed me to just keep going and learn that it's okay. And obviously Scott knew that I had worked my hardest, because one day I stayed at school until 11 o'clock, which is always my favorite story to tell, because my parents were like, "Why aren't you home yet?" And so my dad actually cut me off, and he was like, "All right, it's time to go home." So yeah, it was just a great learning experience. You guys should check it out at High Tech High in the conference room.
Thank you, Mike.
So I'm going to assume that most of you know about the big picture curriculum. We take internships every Tuesday and Thursday. I am currently interning at San Diego Coastkeeper. It's a water quality nonprofit, actually just down the street. And I've been there since winter freshman year. And what I do there is I do data entry and I help out in our water quality monitoring lab. One of the things that we've struggled with the most is sampling water after rains. Because when it rains, you know how it's all slippery? That's the oil that's running, and all the toxins and stuff that's running off into the rivers and streams and then oceans and lakes and eventually into your fish. So what you've been driving on will eventually go into your sushi. So there are machines that will help us do this called auto-samplers. But these machines cost $7,000 a piece at the base level. So I thought that was blatantly ridiculous. I've always had sort of an interest in mechanical engineering, so I thought, I bet I can do that for $500. So that's what I set out to do. I had never really had much experience with engineering other than Legos, but so I had to really step up and take initiative, because I couldn't really do it at school because we don't have any facilities for that, and Coastkeeper doesn't have a wood shop or anything, so I had to do it at home on my own. Though we did get some help from a graduate student. I did get some consulting help from a graduate student who took a look at my design and said, "This is bad, do it over." So I did it over, and I did it over, and then I did it over. And they were all bad except for the last one, but I hope it's good. So that's my deeper learning experience.
Okay, everybody, over to you. You start with person number one. Describe a time when you experienced a deeper learning as a learner, any time in your life. Then we'll go, that's 1 minute. I'll call time, then you go to the next person, next person, next person, and then person number one gets the last word. Are we ready to go? Let me get my clock ready here. Ready? Person number one, go.
What is a question or issue that you are wrestling with in your work? And to kick that off, our keynoter is Gia Trong from Envision Schools. Gia, 2 minutes.
So again, Gia Trong, Envision Education. We run 3 charter high schools in San Francisco, Oakland, and Hayward. And we also have a consulting division, Envision Learning Partners, that does professional development and training for folks that are interested in our model, which is performance assessment. So the question that I'm personally grappling with is how to get our organization talent ready. What I mean by that is, how do we recruit the right person for the right job? How do we support and grow talent within our organization, and how do we keep them? And Larry was saying that this work is all about equity. We serve a population that has been traditionally underserved. 80% free and reduced lunch, 70% will be first to go to college, etc. And to do this work, it's not a quick fix. It takes committed individuals that stay with the kids, stay with us, and do the work together. So that's our question, and I want to give a shout out to my envisioners out there, because I want to keep them. I love you. I want you to stay. But Bailey, I'm not being funny here. It is like, this is really hard work. The work of equity is hard, If we're serving a population that's underserved, that's really hard. And deeper learning is complex, and it's not, you know, you just learn it. It takes 3 to 5 years to really do well, and we need a community to stay together, to work together in order to make sure that there's equitable opportunities for all students out there, and not just for some students out there.
Thank you, Tia. Hey, if you're an envisioner out there, raise your hand. Let's see who the envisioners are. Okay, here we go. Back in your groups, person number 2 starts this time. What is a question or issue you are wrestling with in your work? Person number 2, 1 minute, go.
If you could relive one moment from your life as an educator, or if you're a student here, your life as a student, what would it be? And to start off, Jessica Bray from Internationals Network is going to talk with us for 2 minutes about a moment in her life as an educator. Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm a biology teacher at San Francisco International High School. This is a really hard question for me. There's so many moments that are so gratifying as an educator. There's moments when students begin to believe that they're really smart at your content area. Moments when students show incredible compassion and empathy towards one another. Moments where a lesson that you spent hours planning really clicks for kids. There's so many moments. The moment I'm thinking of is actually one that just happened last week, when a student, who I'll try to remember to call AC, returned to our school. So this student arrived at our school and to the country. I forgot to mention that we teach all English learners, all recent immigrants. So he arrived to the country 4.5 years ago, and he'd experienced extreme emotional trauma. He had very little schooling. He spoke no English. And for the first year at our school, he could spend maybe a maximum of 20 minutes in each class, and then melted down and started spewing profanities. So sophomore year, he decided he wanted to become a marine biologist, and he qualified for an IEP for emotional disturbance. He sought out one-on-one support from teachers and principals. He ended up passing the KC and graduating from high school. So now this student is at Humboldt State, and he's facing a lot of challenges. He doesn't qualify for the DREAM Act, and so he's paying out-of-state tuition out of his own pocket, working grueling jobs over the summer and working full-time during this school year. The textbook is really hard for him to understand. Lectures are difficult to comprehend, and it's really hard to take effective notes. So it's been really challenging, but he's becoming aware of his learning style, and he's learning that he can watch simple YouTube videos to understand complex scientific concepts. Anyways, he came back to visit last week, and he was the best TA I've ever had. He was sitting alongside students that are illiterate, and patiently helping them plot through the text. Meanwhile, he was asking probing questions to the more advanced English speakers. And he stayed after school and was helping me brainstorm strategies to prepare 9th and 10th graders better for college. So this moment just made me think about how the students that cause problems for me as a teacher, I need to remember that they have so much potential and they can do amazing things.
Thank you, Jessica. All right, so now we're going to go over to person number 3. Do I have that right? It's person number 3. All right, if you could relive one moment from your life as an educator or as a student, if that's the case, what would it be? Ready? 1 minute, person number 3, go. Asked, what is at the heart of this work? And to kick it off, we're blessed to have Carlos Moreno from a big picture company here. 2 minutes. Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you. And I absolutely love how the word one is underlined. They're kind of holding us to that. So Big Picture Learning network of about 50 schools around the country. We work in tandem with schools and districts, and our goal is always to make schools and learning relevant and engaging the students in all that they do. And I'm always one to flip things a little bit, so when we talk about one aspect of our work that we would give up last, I don't even know if I would really give it up, but I think listening to Maya and listening to in the last minutes made me think about, well, totally scratch what I initially thought I was going to say and said, nope, that's not it. It's really about always engaging the students and listening to the students and their interests. And I think that so oftentimes when we engage with schools and districts, they would say, oh, we love what you do, we love advisory, we love an internship program, but we just kind of want to skim a little bit and we just want an internship program, and we know to do it really well and do it right. It takes more than just having a young person go out into the real world one day a week and just do what they do there. You need to have a support network. And loved seeing that Noah's principal and advisor are here, who took the time to kind of be here. And that's the type of kind of commitment that we need to make to our students. So don't really know if I'd ever give that up, but that would be, I guess, the last thing I'd maybe think about giving up in the work.
Great, thank you, Garth. Okay, over to you in your groups. Person number 4, what is the one aspect of your work that you would give up last? What is at the heart of this work? 1 minute, go. Let's have a round of applause for our keynoter panel. Thank you all for your inspiring words. Now, a couple of words. We're going to go to break soon, but we have a surprise exercise for you before we go to break. But a couple of things. I just want to remind you once again that the deep dive rooms, there have been 2 changes. Metacognitive is at High Tech Middle 6, and a deep dive into the world of lobsters is High Tech High 501. We're going to go from here right into those deep dive rooms. I just want to say at the end of the day, when we have the exhibitions, as you go to these exhibitions, you're not going to be able to go to every one. You're going to be able to go to 2 or 3 maybe. But I want to suggest a couple of lenses for you to take with you as you go to these exhibitions. First of all, the first question, and one of the things we try to do every time we're doing a gallery walk or whatever, the first question is, what can you celebrate about this work? There's something in there. There's something that's been put in there that is worthy of celebration. So that's the first question, the first lens that we take. Then we're going to go into the deeper learning world. In fact, the things that we celebrate may be evidence of deeper learning in the work, in the product, or in the process that you can intuit from the product that you're seeing. What evidence do you see of deeper learning from this exhibit? And then 2 other questions. What questions emerge for you about deeper learning as you look at this exhibit? Feel free to pose those to the exhibitors. And then finally, what takeaways for you? And then, of course, we want to observe the norm of, as we're going through this exhibition, hard on the content. And if you have a question or think something's missing, it doesn't help anyone to hold back on that. Hard on the content, soft on the people. Okay, so that's exhibition. And then, so right now, we're going to do our launch into the deep dives. We're going to take a dive into deep dives. I'm going to ask Stacy Callier to come up here and lead us in our launch exercise into the deep dive. Stacy.
Okay.
Yeah. You want this?
Yeah. Okay, great. So knowing that deeper learning is all about taking big risks, trying new things, and hopefully being a little playful, we are going to do an experiment right now. We're going to try something that we have done with 250 people, but not with 400 in a very small space. So we're going to see how this goes. And I just want to ask, as we do this, we're aiming for no broken limbs or people trampled, but have fun. So this will take place in about 5 minutes. That's all we need. It is called a Rochambeau War. So how this works is, in a moment, I'm going to yell, "Go!" And when you hear the go, you are going to turn to somebody next to you And you are going to do Rochambeau. Now, we're going to model this because all good learning should start with a model. So Maya, will you model with me? You know Rochambeau, right? Rock, paper, scissors. Okay. So how this works, now we're going to show how this works, okay? Now, we're not going to be those people that go like 1, 2, 3, and then go. You go on 3, okay? Ready? So, 1, okay. Okay, both scissors, so we keep going. 1. Oh, so Maya wins. Maya had paper to my rock. And now what happens is I become Maya's biggest fan. So I go around behind Maya going, Maya, Maya, Maya. While Maya finds another winner, and they go off and do Rochambeau. And then we've got a group of 4, but now we only have 1 winner with 3 people chanting behind them, Maya, Maya, Maya. And what will basically happen is this whole room will all of a sudden congeal into 2 halves, screaming 2 people's names for an ultimate fight-off. And that will launch us into our deep dives. Are you ready?